Hello geography class. I'm going to do a brief video on the oil sands and Hibernia. In today's or this week's lesson, you'll see a number of slideshows on different resources. In this case, we're looking at the fisheries and mining resources of Canada. And then there'll also be a worksheet on energy and different forms of alternative energy. This video gives you just a little bit more detail on the oil sands and on the offshore drilling platforms near Newfoundland and Hibernia. So first, the oil sands. The oil sands are the third largest oil resource in the world. There's about 60 million barrels per day extracted from there. This is now as of 2008 numbers, so obviously right now far less is being extracted. It accounted for 7% of Canada's GDP, this year just under 7%, and accounts for 200,000 jobs. So they're an important, important deal. The vast majority of the mining done at the oil sands is in situ mining. There is some clear-cut mining or open pit mining, which you'll see in the slideshows. But in situ mining works a little bit like this. We're going to get some real high-tech technology here. Here's the land. Basically, in situ mining works like this. You have your oil platform. You drill one hole down, and you find your oil reserve. There's your oil. You drill another hole down like that, and you pump. There's a pumping station. You pump heated liquid, usually some solvents and chemicals, down, and that breaks up the oil down here, and it forces the oil up. And then this is your refining capture location where you actually catch the oil and refine it. There's your technology there. So 80% of oil sands is in situ mining. Now, there are a number of environmental and economic challenges facing the oil sands today. First of all is land. It is located in northern Alberta. We've lost about 24,000 acres of boreal forest in clearing for the oil sands. This is projected to rise. That boreal forest captures, is a carbon sink, so it captures CO2 and converts it to oxygen. So that's a problem. Added on top of that, the oil sands, as of 2008, accounted for about 5% of Canada's greenhouse gas emissions. And that's not including the actual lost carbon capture from the destruction of the boreal forest. So that's a problem. The water situation is a problem as well. It takes about 10 meters cubed of fresh water to get 1 meter cubed of bitumen, which is a low quality oil that then has to be further refined with more water. So there's a lot of water used in this, and the excess water goes to these things called tailings ponds. The picture in the background should be of a tailings pond taken by Edward Burtinsky, a famous Canadian photographer. So these ponds, they sit with these solvents that were used to pump out the oil. They sit for ages, and that liquid and the solvents within them seep into the water table. Currently, Lake Athabasca and the Athabasca River are showing incredibly high amounts of, basically hydrocarbons and other contaminants from the tailings ponds, resulting in mutations in the animals. And then the people who are eating the animals have much higher instances of cancer. I think it's 5 times higher in some areas in some of the indigenous reserves up there. So that's a bit of a problem. The other challenge for the oil sands, so while the oil sands is problematic environmentally, they have a great challenge economically. To make a profit, the oil sands have to sell oil at $65 a barrel or more. When the oil sands were developed in the early 2000s, oil was selling at over $100 a barrel. Now, as of Thursday, which would be April, 8th, something like that, the price per barrel was $23. That is not going to help the oil sands turn a profit. It becomes more expensive to produce oil, so they have to shut down, resulting in job losses and all of the other complications with that. Currently, this is a result of, obviously, COVID-19 is resulting in people flying less, driving less, etc. but also there's an oil trade war that's happening between Russia and Saudi Arabia, where they're basically selling oil for less to undermine each other's market. So that's a challenge that the oil sands has as well. So those are some of the issues that are associated with oil sand in terms of environmental development, economic development, and of course we've talked a great deal about pipelines and how one of the other challenges the oil sands has is getting its oil to market, and currently those pipelines cross through territory that is contested, and the government is negotiating with indigenous groups about that. So there's a whole other realm of who has right to the land and what goes over the land. Thank you. The next major oil project that I'm going to discuss is Hibernia. This is a vast oil field off the coast of Newfoundland. This oil field, it's found mostly in sandstone, sedimentary stone, deep under the ocean surface, and it accounts for, there's roughly 1,395,000,000 barrels of oil trapped in that oil reservoir. This is high quality oil, not the bitumen tar that you get from the oil sands. This is stuff that's almost ready for refining with very little additional cleansing needing to be done. It costs about, to develop this, or to the benefit of this is $1.74 billion to the Canadian economy. So it's a fairly fruitful project. The Hibernia oil platforms are victim to the same market pressures that the oil sands are. So right now they're dropping production because there's not much of a demand. However, the extraction is much cheaper. Having said that, there are a number of environmental challenges that they face as well. For instance, Hibernia is off the coast of Newfoundland in the North Atlantic. Icebergs are a major challenge that a lot of these oil platforms deal with. They do have the right technology to repel icebergs. They're very strong. And if you look at the picture, they're very big as well. The other major challenge they have is with spills underwater in the ocean. The ocean obviously is a very delicate ecosystem. And we learned in 2010, I think it was, that the BP oil spill, the Deep Horizon oil spill that happened in the Gulf of Mexico, caused a great deal of damage to the marine ecosystem there. So that's one of the challenges that Hibernia also copes with. So that's a very cursory look at two major oil projects in Canada. There are many more, but I just wanted to highlight those two because they're the most well known and the ones you should know as geography students of this great country. Now, what your task is now is to complete the two slideshows that have been included. There's a video in one of them, a few newscasts in the other. They're very short. And then do the reading on energy and answer the discussion questions. There should be one or two discussion questions. Thank you, and take care. Be safe.